The simple life. Escaping the rat race. Preparedness. Living off-grid. Being self-reliant or self-sufficient. Living sustainably, aligned with the principles of nature. These are all terms pointing to where I'm trying to go in life, and over the past 6 years I've been learning all I can from books, YouTube channels, and from people who are living their lives themselves from all around the world. In 2021, I purchased my very own piece of woodland in the Scottish Highlands, and for the past 5 months I've started trying to make this dream into a reality. Using principles from my career as a survival instructor and my academic background in ecology, I've put together a mission and a strategy plan to try and lead me there. Now, I'm still very much a beginner and I've learned a lot from my mistakes already. So in this video, I thought I'd share what can be achieved in a short space of time with a relatively low budget and a little help from friends. I'll also discuss what I think we can all learn from living more simply in order to be more resilient on the individual, community and planetary level. So, stay tuned. Hi folks, Tom Fandabi, Dozi, thanks for tuning in. So before I share what I managed to build in the last couple of months, I first thought I'd give you a bit of context of the land that we're on, also share the limitations that we've got, and also some principles that I'm trying to follow moving forward in this project. So first of all, the land is 7 acres. It's a mixture of birch woodland, it's got some open heath, some bog, some open areas, and a running stream. Now what do we plan to use it for? Well, on one level, it's a base for my work to make my YouTube videos and cover all the topics that I cover on the channel. And it's also a space for me to teach the occasional survival course. Now on another level, it's a space for my partner Kiva and I to collaborate on our shared passion about nature. It's a space for us to create our own rewilding project. It's a place for us to learn about all the wildlife that's already here, but also a place to replant some native forest and bring some diversity back to the land. So all this is going to take a lot of time and a lot of effort, so we need a comfortable enough living space to stay when we're working on all this, which is going to be the topic of this video. So a working mission statement for the place could be to create a sustainable, low-impact, off-grid living space that we can meet our basic human needs from the land without compromising biodiversity, and ideally moving forward to actually enhance biodiversity. So we know the mission. What's our limitations? Well, I've sort of summarised them into a few things. One is Scottish building code, another is budget, time, and then finally access to the location. So first, let's quickly talk about Scottish building regulations. Now I'll put some links below if you guys want to learn more about it. But basically, all the stuff we're going to be building here will fall under Scottish hutting laws. So simply put, the buildings have to be under a certain size. They can't have permanent foundations. They have to be completely off-grid. They can't be connected to the electric grid system, and they can't have things like septic tanks. They also can't be your permanent address, but they can be accommodation for your work, which for us is the case. So these limitations might be a bit of a killjoy for some of your dreams, but generally I do agree with them because it stops people building massive holiday homes and hotels and big structures in our lovely wild places, and hopefully means that people can live some of the time or most of the time in wild places without having too much of an impact on the land. Next is budget. I wish I was a millionaire, but unfortunately I'm not. So yeah, budget is obviously a limitation for us. Everything that I'm doing, I'm trying to do as cheap as possible, which is difficult because the price of building materials and stuff has just skyrocketed these last year or so. But yeah, I'm trying my best with a low budget. If you guys want to support in the Patreon page or PayPal link, that'd be much appreciated, but no worries if not. Another limitation, of course, is time. All this stuff is going to take a while to build, and we are both still having to do other jobs to earn money to rent the place that we're living in and pay all the bills, and then also buy building materials. So obviously time is a limitation. Next limitation is access to the actual plot of land. Now I'm lucky there is an access track, but it's pretty gnarly. It's got some tight bends, so I can't bring a trailer up the track. I can get my van up the track, but I can't overload it with building materials. Now the solution would be get a 4x4 truck, but I can't afford one at the moment. So there is a limitation to how much building materials I can take up at a time. but as I go through the video, I'll discuss about some ways that we can get around that if a vehicle is a limitation for you. So we know our mission, we know our limitations. Is there any principles we can follow to get us started? Well, throughout the video, I'm going to refer to sort of 3 sets of principles that I really like to use. First one are the 4 priorities of survival. This just helps us prioritize what is the most important thing to focus on first. Then we've got the acronym KISS, followed by the philosophy of flow. So the 4 priorities of survival is a concept I use in all my survival courses. And this is basically shelter, water, fire, and food. Okay, that's the priorities that we need to meet for our human needs. Now, when we're talking about a more long-term living situation, the priorities are the same, but they just get a bit more complex. So for the sake of this video, for water, I'm also going to add waste, okay, because it's all about flow. It's about flowing clean water in and your waste away from your living space. And then in the fire section, I'm also going to talk about energy, okay? Firewood is important, but also electricity. Next is the acronym KISS, which stands for Keep It Simple Stupid. Keep it simple, stupid. Now, for me, simplicity is the key to long-term resilience, self-reliance, and sustainability. Because generally, the more complex something is, whether it's a piece of equipment or entire economic system, the more complex it is, sure, it creates more convenience, it creates progress, and it creates specialization, but the more moving parts there is, the more complex it is, the more likely it is going to go wrong. It's harder to fix, it's harder to maintain, and it requires more specialists to fix and maintain it. Now for me, I'm not an expert builder, I'm not an expert plumber, I'm not an expert electrician. I know a little bit about all these things. So for me, if I can build structures that are really simple, really easy to fix and maintain, so that, you know, if I get sick or if I pass on the land to someone else, another generalist can walk into the situation and really easily work out how to fix and maintain all the structures that I build. Finally is the philosophy of flow. Now, I've talked about flow in a couple of my past videos, and to me it relates to the keep it simple principle. It's ultimately about taking the path of least resistance, moving with the currents and rhythms of nature. For example, there's a big part of me that's really impatient. I just want my dream off-grid cabin right now. And we humans can fall into this trap quite easily, and we tend to just slap our blueprint of a building on the land without really getting to know the place. We just kind of scrape it level, slap on our cookie cutter house, and it's good to go. But this is often high impact on the land and can cause problems further down the line. Now, to me, the philosophy of flow is ultimately about taking your time and spending time on the land at the different times of the year, so you can learn, you know, where does the water drain? What areas are prone to flood? Where does the snow collect? Where do the worst of the storm winds blow? Where does the sun rise and set during the different times of year? Where do the wild edible plants and fungi pop up? What tracks and routes does the local wildlife use? And the more you understand that, the more skillfully we can set up our off-grid living space. And it also relates to practical things like how can we easily flow drinking water to a living space and our waste away from it. So with these priorities and principles in mind, let me share what I've managed to build in these last few months, and I'll also share some ideas I've got moving forward. So back in 2020, in the midst of lockdown, when the idea of owning a bit of land was still just a pipe dream, I started working on my off-grid living ideas anyway, by converting an old builder's van into a multifunctional off-grid living and workspace, and I'll have a whole video showing how I made that, so check that out for more detail. So when I purchased the land and the van was good to go, I planned the following roadmap regarding shelter. 1. Stay in the van until I built a large tent. Then move the furniture from the van into the tent and live and work from there so the van could be used to transport building material. While living between the tent and the van, first thing was to build a large shed for long-term storage of equipment, tools and firewood. We could then live and work between the shed and the tent until we could build the dream off-grid cabin. Now the tent. So you can buy large wall tents and safari tents, but these are often really expensive and often require a large level platform straight away to build on. So I decided to keep it simple and make a shelter myself. I harvested some invasive western hemlock trees that were conveniently straight and built a large A-frame from 2 tripods and a crossbeam. Kiva already owned an old 3x3 meter bell tent, so I made a small platform on one side so that this could be the sleeping area that opened out into a large covered porch. I first used my lightweight DD 5x5 tarp, but replaced this with a heavy duty wax canvas tarp as it was tougher, more breathable and lets in more natural light. To camouflage it a bit though and reduce flapping in the wind, I experimented covering it with some tree branches. I then made a door with just a tree branch attached to a tarp. Now, although the A-frame shape reduces the living space inside a little bit, it's probably the easiest and most stormproof shelter you could make, and I plan to eventually make a level floor from it from pallets. Now, other than the bell tent platform and the van furniture, this sort of shelter you could easily make if you didn't have a vehicle, as each item is light enough to carry in as long as there's some straight trees on the land. Now onto the shed. Now the shed is still not complete, but I hope to finish this before winter. Now this is the biggest thing I've ever tried to build, and I've already learned a lot from my mistakes. Now I went into it with no real blueprints, just a couple of sketches and a lot of enthusiasm. And with the help from my buddy Luke, we made a basic lean-to frame levelled on some stone pillars. The timber is second grade stuff from a local sawmill, which makes it far cheaper than getting it from large retailers. The idea is to have 1/3 of it as an open log store and the other 2/3 as an enclosed insulated shed. When it came to the roof, I first put a layer of plastic, helped by my mate Fergus, and I was considering using recycled corrugated iron, but decided to just buy some new stuff to make sure it was definitely going to be waterproof and give me an easier medium to work with, considering this is the first roof I've ever fitted. I plan to clad the whole thing and add a couple of windows, so don't forget to subscribe and see the camp progress, and also my monthly behind the scenes videos on Patreon. Another great thing about building a shed first is that you can make all your mistakes on a less important structure, so when it comes to the cabin, hopefully you're a wee bit wiser. Next is water and waste. So for water, I plan to put a rainwater tank off the roof of the shed as well as on the final cabin. But in the meantime, I'm lucky to have a flowing stream on the land, although it is about 150 metres away down a hill, so I've been keeping fit by carrying jerry cans to and from it. A very handy piece of kit is called the Lifesaver Jerry Can. It pressurizes the water through a ceramic and activated carbon filter, making even less than ideal water safe to drink. I tend to fill it straight from the stream and fill my sink jerry can with the filtered water. Now, some energy saving ways I might look into the future would be some sort of wind powered pump to get the water from the stream up to the base camp. For wastewater, we only ever use eco-friendly soaps and washing up liquids, and the grey water is drained into a soak-away downhill from camp. For the toilet, you can't get much more simple than a bucket with some sawdust under a tarp. This is emptied in a compost heap downhill and downwind from the camp, far away from any water source. I recommend the book, The Human Manure Handbook, to learn all you could possibly want about composting toilet systems. Next, fire and energy. Now, firewood management is going to be an essential part of living here, as I plan to heat everything with wood stoves. Now, for the moment, there's plenty of dead wood, but this is also important for biodiversity. So, moving forward, I plan to mainly harvest the invasive tree species, then actively plant tree species intended for fuel, or bring in already felled firewood from elsewhere. The book Norwegian Wood is a good starting point to learn about firewood management. So what about electricity? Well, some long-term solutions I want to look into are things like low impact microhydro, wind and solar, but I needed something to just get me started, something I can run some appliances and power tools off of. Now, I could go down the more traditional petrol generator, but you know, these are noisy, they create fumes, and of course, you're still reliant on petrol. So I knew I didn't want that. I wanted some sort of big battery pack. Now, for a while, it felt like I was being emailed almost every day by different companies offering me different batteries and portable power pack solutions, but none of them really impressed me with their capacity or ability to sort of link up. But then EcoFlow got in touch, and I had a good conversation with them on the phone. I described what I was looking for and my plan for this off-grid project, and they kindly sent me one absolute beast of a power system. Now, they're not paying me to promote this in the video, they just wanted me to use it in the filming that I was going to do anyway, and give my honest opinion in it. So this is what I'll do. Now, I've only had it for the last sort of 3 months, but I've been impressed with it. It's an absolute beast. Now, EcoFlow have a few different power systems. This is one of their bigger ones, and it's called the EcoFlow Delta Max, and is advertised as a home backup system. It has a massive capacity of 2016 watt hours, which can be expanded by connecting extra batteries via the ports to expand it up to 6048 watt hours. It has an AC output of up to 2400 watts. It comes with lots of plugs. It comes with 4 AC sockets, a 12 volt, and lots of USB inputs, so you can charge pretty much anything off it. I was really impressed that I could easily use some fairly powerful power tools straight off it, either plugging straight into it or by running an extension lead from it. Now, you can charge it off mains electricity before taking it with you, and by doing this you can get it from 0 to 100% charge in under 2 hours, which is pretty impressive considering how big it is. Now, charging off the mains obviously isn't very off-grid, but luckily they have some solar panels that you can plug straight into it, and they very kindly sent me a couple of panels to try out as well. So this means in theory you've got an entire off-grid, very powerful power system in one. Now, does it fall in the keep it simple acronym? In an immediate sense, yes. All I need to do is switch it on and plug stuff in, and it does it all very quietly and very well. Now, long term, if it breaks, there isn't much of a solution other than sending it back to the factory, unless you're an expert in lithium-ion batteries or a computer scientist. I'm not going to be able to fix this, where I could fix a petrol generator with a bit of knowledge. Now, the solar panels, I'm a little bit concerned about how waterproof the whole system is, especially in Scotland, where, you know, the sun could come out for 10 minutes and then you have a downpour right after that. But that's some stuff that, you know, I'll test out the more it goes on. But EcoFlow also offer lots of other products to improve your off-grid energy system. Now, if you're interested in EcoFlow, I put a discount link and also some information on a summer sale that they're offering that I recommend you jump on, because, you know, obviously these things are not the cheapest things in the world. So definitely check that out, folks. I reckon something like this is really useful in an emergency, or just a simple solution for an off-grid living situation. Finally, food, which is our last priority for survival. And for now, I'm simply bringing in non-perishable food and storing it in mice-proof containers, plus gorging on the wild edible plants and fungi when they're out. Now, I have a past video talking about growing veg and survival crops, and I plan to revisit this topic here in the future, looking into topics like food forests and low-impact crofting practices. So why do I think self-reliance and resilience are important topics to cover in this channel? Well, if the last couple of years have taught us anything, they've showed us just how fragile our economic, our energy, and our food systems are. Okay, we can't deny that. We also can't deny the environmental challenges that we're all going to face. And modern society, in many ways, is great, where people are living more comfortably, more connected than ever before. But it's just too easy to fall into these conveniences, okay? And we generally have no idea where our food and energy comes from and where our waste goes. Now, to live more self-reliant, off-grid, whatever you want to call it, yes, you need to give up a lot of comforts, because comforts are often complex and they need lots of supporting systems to keep them going. But at the very least, you have control of your basic human needs. And to me, that's a sacrifice worth making. So moving forward, I plan to do update videos for this off-grid living project, maybe once a year released on this channel, But if you want to see more, head over to my Patreon page, and there I do monthly behind the scenes videos, and the support would be really appreciated. There's also a PayPal link if you want to donate, if you feel so inclined. Also, don't forget to check out the EcoFlow deals, folks. I really think that their power systems have got real potential for, you know, home backup systems, and also if you have an off-grid living dream in mind. So definitely don't forget to check out the deals. Thanks so much for watching. Hope you enjoy this video, and I'll be back next month with another Highlander survival video. See you then.